Good morning, everyone. I hope that you've had and continue to have a wonderful summer. Thanks for joining us today. We're glad to be resuming our monthly first Friday meetings after taking a break in July. We are the Kansas City Coalition for Digital Inclusion, and collectively, we share a vision that all people in our metro area will have access to and the skills needed to use technology since, especially these days, there are just so many ways it has become really integral in our daily lives. Um, this coalition was founded by and led by a steering council, and I think don't see any of them here today yet. I know Carrie was planning on joining us, but anyway, those members are Ina P. Montgomery of Urban Tech, Aaron Deacon of KC Digital Drive, and the library's very own Carrie Coogan. And there are actually several ways to stay informed and connected with us, our social media channels, we have a website, and of course, there's also a monthly newsletter that goes out, which summarizes these very meetings. And then finally, I would be remiss if I did not use this opportunity to plug a very important project happening at the library right now. You may have seen it around, but as part of our strategic plan development, we're asking for community input through this survey. We want to hear from you. I really love the process that we're going through right now and gathering input, of course, from staff, our leadership, and other stakeholders, and then, the communities that we serve. And so I'm really excited to offer this opportunity to collect your input. You can also go to our website. The URL is there above the QR code. And I will be including this, of course, in our follow-up newsletter in case you're not able to catch it right now. Don't worry. It's I think between 15 and 20 questions. A lot of them are just kind of selections, select the bubble. So it's really easy to do and a really good way to have your voice heard. Um, oops, just close my screen. Let's see here. We are going to next move on to new members. If this is your first time joining us for this monthly meeting, we'd like to hear from you. Just maybe take a few seconds to introduce yourself and tell us, a super brief elevator speech about your organization and the work that you do. Is there anyone here for the first time today? With that, um, we will go ahead and I think I saw Mr. Abston was here and wanted to, every month we save just a portion of our agenda here at the beginning in case there are any updates or special announcements from our Missouri and our Kansas offices of broadband development. And I saw Bill. Oh, there you are, Bill. If you have anything you'd like to share, the floor is yours.
Well, good morning. Happy Friday to everyone. Of course, the broadband office here in Kansas was formed in 2020 by Governor Kelly. I was appointed the executive director of the broadband office in March of this year. I have like over 40 years of experience in telecommunication and infrastructure construction and operation. And so in the broadband office, we have specific projects that we're administering. Right now, there's around 100 projects that are being administered by the broadband office here in Kansas. Of those, the Middle Mile project which was the ground was broken June 18th in Emporia. That's a project of over $69 million that will do 682 miles of open access fiber across the state. Within the broadband office, we are just now closing our portal for applications for the BEAD project, where NTIA issued a policy update or change notice June the 6th, which required us to reassess our program and virtually redo the 2 years worth of work within the last 45 days, right? So we opened the portal 14 days ago, and the portal closed at 6 o'clock on July 30th. We have 163 applications for 25 or so companies, which will be for close to $500 million to provide broadband access across the state of Kansas. And in our digital opportunities segment of the broadband office, our digital opportunities to connect Kansas was awarded 2.3 million in awards to 13 organizations for the program created by Spark Committee using the ARPA funds. The program funded 28 awards across the state to support digital skills training and to expand opportunities in the workforce and essential technology skills. We're waiting patiently for a press release to announce our advanced digital opportunities to promote technology, the Adopt2 program, which Commerce intends to announce awards of 10.7 million from the Adopt program through the Capital Project Fund. It's the second round of the funding. We anticipate closing out the $15 million of total awarded for device distribution and public Wi-Fi. So the only program that within our digital opportunities that we weren't able to execute this year was canceled by the current administration, and that was about $8 million of the digital equity portion of the NTIA funding, and that would affect about 145,000 Kansans. We're hoping at some point that can be reactivated. I'll continue to advocate for those and the needs and the requirements of the underserved, the aged, and the focus of those funds are still a requirement that didn't go away, but we'll attempt to address those as we move down the road. So that should bring everyone up to date on the activities here in Topeka in the Kansas Office of Broadband Development. I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions if I could.
That's a great update, Bill. This is Tom Esselman. I know it's early. You just had the deadline earlier this week for the BEAD applications, but do you have any sense at this point with the BEAD awards going out of the likelihood of covering most of the key, spots throughout the state of Kansas that are otherwise lacking, decent network access? What's your thought about, is this going to leave us with still a lot of gaps, or is this going to do a good job of getting us to where we need to be?
Well, it depends on what your definition of a good job is, but my charge is to provide, Governor Kelly's charged me with providing broadband access to the 100% of the state of Kansas by 2030. So NTIA, the rules have changed. We had a good plan going into April where we're stalled before we could seek the approval of that. We had the approval at the state level. We had to go and be stalled at the national level due to the initiation of the benefit of the bargain round, right? Yeah. So we're in process of that. We're just now opening up the applications we just received. We've got a bunch of folks working on looking at completeness, the technical and the financial and those things. So we'll have until September 4th to provide NTIA our revised program. We still have an allocation of $451 million to address those needs that are very evident in agriculture and education, telemedicine, commerce, all those things that are very present and are the basis for our the BEAD program in itself. So I can't speak to a lot of as we're in a quiet period pertaining to that. As we come out, we'll be, as we make through our SAC meeting with NTIA, we'll go to a public comment section of 7 days before we go to the application to NTIA at September 4th. So sometime, if everything works, there's a lot of balls in the air, but we're planning on meeting the September 4th date, and we'll plan on having the public comment 7 days as required. And so we'll incorporate any of that public comment through our proposal as it goes through the leadership here and on to NTIA at September 4th. And it's with all those hopes and efforts that we're working to provide a high-level broadband digital access with the standards is 100/20 with a less than 100 megasecond latency, the scalability, the support advanced services, all those things that we'll be evaluating the applications as we go through. So it depends on what your definition of good service is.
No, this has been such a huge period of uncertainty, and it sounds like you've definitely hit the ground running in your first few months in the job. So thanks for the thorough update, and we're hopeful that what funding you have been awarded, you're able to make it through and make a difference. Because I know Kansas has been toward the top of the heap in terms of working at least on the BEAD side of things throughout the past couple of years. So we're hopeful that that's going to continue to see its way through. So thanks for the great update.
You're welcome. Anything else that it would be pending, I'd be happy to address.
Any more questions or comments for Bill? Great. Thank you again, Bill, for your updates and for being here today. Moving through the agenda, we actually weren't able to get a confirmation for anybody to attend from the Missouri broadband office. So we'll go ahead and just move on to the member spotlight. I had the pleasure recently of meeting this next team and learning about this amazing new project that they are launching. And I'd like to hand it over to Kristen Wood and Dr. Romeo Michael to talk about, from MoKanN Goodwill, to talk about their new Excel Center here in Kansas City.
Thank you so much, Wendy. Good morning, everyone. My name's Kristen. I work at Goodwill. I know that Laura Stockton diligently represents our organization at this meeting, and I'm just grateful to be able to join for a few minutes about this new project, the Excel Center. So as you know, Goodwill is generally a workforce development focused organization. We serve adults as they are overcoming barriers, gaining new skills to include digital skills, and ultimately earning and keeping employment. And we know that there are dozens of thousands of adults without high school diplomas in our communities, and that significantly impacts their career opportunities, their ability to pursue additional education, and the types of wages that they can earn. And it trickles down to their families as well, because kiddos are far more likely to drop out themselves if their parents didn't complete high school and if they're in a low to moderate income household. And Goodwill is very fortunate that we are part of a federated national model of nonprofits. And about 15 years ago, another Goodwill in Indiana started the Excel Center as a pathway for adults there to pursue not only their diplomas, but industry recognized credentials, post-secondary education, and ultimately careers that provided meaningful wages and benefits to support themselves and their families. And that model has ballooned since then. Now, 15 years later, there's almost 50 Excel centers across the country, including 6 others that exist in Missouri. And so we're very fortunate to be bringing this tried and true tested model to the Kansas City region. And so enrollment is open now we will be serving adults, currently 21 years and older, Missouri residents who do not have a high school diploma. They can choose to work with Goodwill and the Excel Center to pursue a true Missouri issued high school diploma that's in alignment with Missouri learning standards. So it's another option. It's not a GED or a high set or equivalency. It is a diploma. And people would be able to transfer in any credits they had earned earlier in life or start from 0 credits. They would enroll in classes at their own pace over the course of 5 8-week terms. So there's lots of entry and exit points for our adults that are balancing their lives and jobs and kids. And they would work through their own pace to earn the credits that they need to graduate. While they are pursuing their academic work, they will also have life coaches to help them with not only the academic advising, but the case management and the wraparound supports that we all know that folks with barriers need. And one of the coolest things about this model is it provides direct daycare support. So there will be on-site drop-in daycare at no cost. So and a student would be able to drop off their kids ages 6 weeks to 12 years old. So they have a safe place to be while those adult learners are focusing on their own education. And then I just want to reiterate that truly the goal is not to stop with the diploma, but to continue on. We are evaluating our success on whether our students are earning industry recognized credentials, whether they are enrolling in post-secondary education as that aligns with their career development plan, and ultimately, are they earning jobs where they are able to step off of government assistance and support themselves and their families with higher wages and benefits. And so I think we really appreciate the opportunity to share that is coming, but of course the digital component of this is real. We will be doing assessments on folks' digital literacy and incorporating those foundational classes to ensure that our students can be successful as they're in the classroom and doing their homework, using devices, navigating the internet, and we'll make sure that all of our students have devices while they are in class. And working with them to assess what tech-enabled careers might be a good fit for them along the line. So again, enrollment is open. I'll drop our enrollment form in the chat and really appreciate this chance to share that this service is coming with you all.
Thank you very, very much for that, and for this wonderful project. You may know that the library actually offers a high school diploma program as well. It's also Excel. It's called Excel Adult High School, and we offer that in partnership with Literacy-KC and Mid-Continent Public Library. We offer a set number of scholarships every year for applicants, that come through our 3 organizations. And it's a completely online program, which isn't the perfect fit for all of our applicants. So it's just really wonderful to have, yet another option for referring those patrons. Literacy-KC also offers the High Set program. So it's really nice to have so many options, and I'm excited about this program too, just because of all the wraparound services that come along with it. I think you're really setting people up for success and providing all of those support through all of those challenges that they might face in this process. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Kristen and Romeo today?
I'm curious about the support that is offered to individuals as they're trying to complete those courses within that time period that you identified. What if what if they need additional supports in getting through that successfully?
Yeah, so I would say the 5 8-week terms, for one thing, is an opportunity for people to be supported because they could take a term off and come back at no penalty to them in any way, shape, or form. and it allows them to get back in faster than maybe waiting a semester or a year. The life coaches will also be providing a wide variety of supports to include things like gas cards, car repairs, Uber, Lyft rides to help with transportation. Our locations will be on a bus line as well. We can help people secure like clothing or furniture items. Of course, devices we already discussed. For some of the other needs that people might be facing, like housing or mental health issues, we would lean into partners and make referrals over there. But we're very fortunate that this is also a Missouri Department of Social Services funded program. So we'll be able to draw down like SNAP and TANF funding in addition to some of our other resources to wrap our students in resources to overcome those barriers.
Yeah, it
Kristen?
just sounds great because of the wraparound. Thank you.
Yeah, and Chris and I agree. The wraparound services are just so vital. I'm curious, though, because you put an emphasis on the fact that this is a diploma-oriented program. And are there any, I'm going to use the wrong word here, but are there any specific tracks or job credentials that are targeting specific types of jobs, or are they more just designed to create a kind of an entry level? With that diploma, at least you have a credential, but are there any specific tracks that the program is targeting, you know, depending on the skill sets and the aptitudes of the different students?
Yeah, great question. So the short answer is no, there won't be any preset career tracks. They will take their courses to earn their diploma, similar to any K-12 learning opportunity. But we will also be talking to folks about their career goals, about labor market data, and helping them create the next step plan so they can get industry recognized credentials, enroll in college, and get a career as works out. And what we know from other Excel centers across the country is that healthcare is the #1 field that our Excel Center students end up pursuing, followed by STEM and skilled trades. So we know that those are common, and I would say that that aligns well with demand here in Kansas City. So we would anticipate a lot of our students opt in to those types of things. And of course, there's many options even within those industry areas, but we aren't going to mandate certain tracks.
And we had a question in the chat. I know when we talked, a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned there were the kind of a rolling enrollment in different cohorts, maybe 5 sessions a year, I think you said. Leah Henriksen from KC Digital Drive said, asked if there was a deadline for enrollment. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so there is not a deadline for enrollment. It is sort of a first come, first serve for eligible folks until we reach our capacity. And in the event that we do hit a capacity limit, we would just hold on to folks for the next 5-8 week term and reach out to them as spots might open up. So I would say in that sense, the earlier the better to get on the list, but there will be, our first term starts October 20th, and then there will be a January term, a March term, and so lots of opportunities for people to engage.
Thank you. That's great. Any more questions or comments?
I'm going to add one more comment, Wendy, because just 2 days ago, I know the Economic Development Corporation made a public announcement about the progress that they're making in their overall workforce development initiative across Kansas City. In fact, KC Rising, which is part of the oh gosh, I'm blocking out. It's connected to the not the Downtown Council, but it's major workforce development program that I think this Excel program links really nicely to, and I think it would be nice to to share the program so that it gets exposure in the context of what the EDC is talking about right now. It just really seems to align really well.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
Tom, did you mean the Civic Council?
Civic Council. Yep. Thanks, Leslie. Yep.
Right. Well, thank you again for joining us and providing that summary and update. I know we at the library will be very excited to send people your way.
Yeah, thank you.
You bet. So moving on now then to our featured presentation, we're actually going to revisit a conversation that we had, not quite a year ago, I guess. It was late last year, maybe October, November. We had a group of panelists and discussed, the intersection of K through 12 education and the digital divide, and, how the access and skills deficit in some cases for technology is affecting our children and of course their families, and what that looks like here in the metro. And so we've actually asked our panelists to join us again. We weren't able to get Mr. Thien from Independent School District, but we do have Dr. Katie Collier and Julian Robinson. And I'd like to go ahead and hand it on over to Tom Esselman, who will be facilitating our discussion today.
Thanks, Wendy. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Esselman. I run a nonprofit called DEPO-KC, which is the Digital Program Office of Greater Kansas City. At one time, I was a steering council member for this esteemed organization, the coalition, and I was with PCs for People until 2 years ago, when I left to start doing work on behalf of what we were expecting to be many millions of dollars of federal grant funding coming through the Digital Equity Act, which is now put on hold. But in the interim, I joined a national group called SHLB. That's an acronym, SHLB, which stands for Schools, Healthcare, Libraries, Broadband Coalition. And so-called community anchor institutions, CAIs, make up the bulk of what SHLB targets. And so we're thrilled that we can have a discussion today with individuals focusing on schools. Next month, we're going to focus on healthcare, and kind of throughout our monthly meetings that are hosted by the Kansas City Public Library, we always have updates from the library perspective. But I think the whole idea of community anchors, I spent a lot of time as a co-chair of a national policy group called Anchors for Digital Opportunity. And I think what Dr. Collier and what Julian Robinson from Hickman Mills and Dr. Collier from Blue Valley are going to chat with us today kind of gets right in the crosshairs of what's very topical right now from a federal perspective on down. And it's how we define the impact of community anchor institutions. And in particular, just about a month ago, the Supreme Court ruled on the constitutionality of something known as the USF, the Universal Service Fund. And that is, if you ever just check your monthly phone bill, there's a little tax that's attached to every phone bill. And that money from that tax is managed by the FCC, and it goes out in the form of grants to schools and healthcare organizations, particularly in the rural area, but also to libraries, to make sure that they have more affordable means of providing broadband, fiber broadband to their areas that they serve. And it is based on assessment of the percentage of the population that's considered low income. But it was ruled as constitutional. So that gives us some optimism that in spite of a lot of the cuts and pauses that this administration is putting on things having to do with what we know as digital inclusion, we still have the opportunity through schools and healthcare organizations and libraries to make sure that there is affordable broadband. So with all that as a backdrop, I wanted to welcome Dr. Collier. Katie, you and Julian both provided some wonderful insights last year when we had you. And so I want to start the discussion just asking each of you just to reintroduce yourself to the group and let us know from the perspective of just your overall, you're getting ready to start the school year, with respect to things that have to do with either, quality, speed, and accessibility of internet, devices, and skills, just the overall assessment of how you feel about your school district as it goes into the new school year with respect to digital access overall. I'd just love to get some just introductory comments from both of you. And Dr. Collier, I'll have you start first, if that's okay.
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me back to this conversation. I had great takeaways from my exchange with you last year that were beneficial here. So I'm thankful to be here. I've been in the Blue Valley School District 6 years. I'm deputy superintendent, and certainly in the area that I oversee, it's tied to really blended learning, utilization of devices to accent learning in classrooms. And then I work also and support the hardware side and really supports to our families. So what we have seen, we're always hopeful at the very start of the school year. So I'm going to say that. So in the air, there's a lot of positivity in starting the year. We know that there's always opportunities to support our families as a whole, to support the individual students that we serve. So there are some things that we've done over the last year to assist in helping families develop really skill development to serve them in their support of their students and also their own individual personal family goals that I can talk about a little bit. So there's some changes that we've made in those areas, some extension of our services since we last got together. So I would say that is where some of our efforts have been, and then also trying to help families understand digital learning opportunities outside of our own district as well. So increasing our efforts to assist family in connection to our resources. We work closely with our with Children's Mercy Hospital, and we are lucky to have a contract with that organization that allows those social workers in our schools, and they also have been very helpful to us in this regard and trying to help parents also access some additional resources, even tied to the topic here at hand today.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Collier. And I'll be coming back to you with a couple of specific questions about some opportunities and challenges that still confront everyone. But let me hand over to Julian Robinson, who's the Executive Director of IT for Hickman Mills. So welcome back, Julian.
Thanks for having me, and good morning to everyone. I'm grateful to be back here. And if you don't remember, I'll bring to your memory, I think last year around this time, we were in the middle of a full-on tech transition.
Yeah.
We moved away from the third-party vendor, and we're bringing everything, all technology pieces, resources back in-house. With that said, we were able to use the then E-rate funds that were available to us to purchase the infrastructure equipment that we needed, more specifically the switches and APs that we needed in clouds in order to give us the connectivity we needed for that to get us back on board. So throughout that year, we had completed the transition, hired staff on, and all of that. So we were in the middle of doing all those changes and things, at the same time supporting students. Now, with the student piece, in regards to their connectivity, what we have done so far, if there are students who are having issues with connectivity at home, we have provided them with the mobile hotspots to use at home, and allotted enough of the service to where even if their parents were to use the devices to connect to their computers at home if they did not have access to internet, we allotted them the availability to use that as well. We are now at the place to where we have about maybe 20% of our students using our hotspots at home for connectivity. And now we're at the place too, to where we're actually looking to see more about how we can support our parents when it comes to their learning skills, tech learning skills, e-learning skills of that nature. We really had to make sure that the infrastructure and the foundation was right before we were able to really start stepping into the place to where we could support the communities a little bit more. As you know, all our devices, all our students are one-to-one, so they all have their own devices to connect. And we're in the middle of, preparing for the new fall year to open up, making sure that all students are able to connect as they need to on campus and at home. There are a few connections we have with surrounding community colleges that we have kind of co-op teams going to where the students also use the devices at their community college for different services to help update their skills and give them some dual access to possible associate degrees in the future. But I have to say that we're right at the cusp of really being able to start assisting the community a little bit more with their gaps or whatever in the digital divide. So
that's great. Well, thank you for that update, Julian. So as we spend the next few minutes talking about some key topics, I want to make sure that all of you on the call understand there's probably two levels at which we're going to operate in having this discussion. Our main goal overall by having you join this coalition is in sharing with us your challenges and opportunities. There's a lot of organizations represented here who could provide additional supportive partnering services, or as you've both mentioned, ways to make sure that your students and families are accessing not just the digital tools and skills that you're offering at the school district, but that they're integrating with the services provided by other groups throughout the community. So we want to make sure that giving you a platform to share what's going on and where you might still have some needs, it might ignite some new partnerships and some new ways to help out your families. There's another level, and as I mentioned right now, there's a lot of uncertainty at the federal level with respect to policy. But just hearing you, Julian, say that you were able to pay for the upgraded equipment and the access points and all the infrastructure through funds that come from E-rate. Well, E-rate is one of those things that was being threatened by this ruling that the Universal Service Fund was somehow unconstitutional. Interestingly, from a policy perspective, even though it's now been ruled as constitutional, the one thing that Congress needs to address when it comes back into session in September is how the fund for Universal Service Fund will continue to get funded going forward. For those of you who may not know, that is a reimbursable program. So Hickman Mills had to spend the money and then apply on the basis of what they spent it on to get it reimbursed. And you're able to do that when the amount of money allocated to your school district is budgeted the way it always has been, which is based basically on a percentage of how many residents live under the poverty guideline. But what's being considered right now is that the funding for USF would be on an annual congressional budget appropriation, which would mean tremendous uncertainty. You would not be able to budget each year for what you would need to spend, and it's going to leave schools and libraries and healthcare organizations in a huge bind. So there's still work to be done. And I would hope, I know certainly with the work I'm doing on this policy group, I now have a shining example of how, E-rate works positively to help the school district like Hickman Mills, but how that would be threatened going forward if the current Congress rules to just fund it on an annual appropriation basis, because that could lead to some massive cuts. I don't want to bore everybody with that, but I do want you to know that these local issues that we're hearing about, they are affected by policies that you can influence by writing to your elected officials and your congresspeople to say, preserve the USF, preserve the ability to fund it the way it's continued to be funded, because it does make a positive impact on decisions like this for schools and school children.
You know,
So,
Tom,
go ahead,
I'm
Katie.
sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, a big part of that is sustainability, right? So where we fail with E-rate receipt is districts that have refresh practices to ensure that devices stay fresh, that we have devices that are applicable to meet the wide range of needs of kiddos that we serve. And that interrupts that. So then that creates splintered student experiences in the classrooms or by levels, because then in some instances as a district, you're left prioritizing where we want to focus a device deployment or a device refresh. And that's critical because so much of our educational program anymore is based on, and state assessment programs are based on the delivery of those assessments through devices. So there's big dominoes to the E-rate conversation. Even just, beyond the devices, it's the educational delivery program, it's the assessment model that states rely on, Missouri and Kansas. So I appreciate you bringing it up.
Well, prior to this past year and a half, I really never got involved in any kind of federal policy work. I just, as a lot of us on this call, you get so engaged in your local service providing work, it's easy to just stay heads down and think, oh, somebody else is going to worry about those policy issues. But once I got removed from my day-to-day work at PCs for People and started focusing on what the real impact of some of these policies is, I realized how close to home it hits on, everything from, just your flexibility or lack of flexibility to serve the needs of the students and families in the right way. So. So that's where I want to go now, if you're okay, Katie, to talk about, as you go into this school year, and you've already shared a few things, what are some of those challenges you were sharing with us a year ago that you feel like you've done a good job and you're meeting them? And what are the things that are still out there? I know we talked about the need for multilingual, digital help, and the fact that a lot of parents have to deal with multiple platforms, one for school lunches and one for, enrollment and one for grades. And so what are some of the highlights and continuing challenges that you're seeing on the digital access side? And then after you share a few, we'll go over to Julian and get his take on what's happening at Hickman Mills.
I wish I could tell you that we've fully streamlined the multiple platform salad, but unfortunately we can't. But we would love to continue work with our vendors to be able to do that for our families. Our English speakers of other languages, as those students are enrolling, we now are working to deploy kind of a checklist, if you will, and to help them navigate our school system with more ease. And at the same time, particularly if they are, if the family is new to the United States, to help them navigate our community resources with some more ease. And so that's understanding. One of the questions we ask is whether or not they have access to digital resources in the home. So we know that from the beginning. So we're working with the family to, like Jillian said, ensure that there's a hotspot in the household from the start of the school year versus sadly waiting to November and someone in the school realizes this, this is a reality. So we've started to do that. And a year and a half ago, We opened a food pantry here in the district, which serves students and parents of our district, and then anyone else in the surrounding community. And so that's another thing that we've started to do through our district food pantry, understand the needs of families tied to also digital resources. And so we have this piece, what's the app, ? And trying to have these what we call really kind of service bars. And so we started it. Some of our staff in our technology department started it with the intention first of helping parents connect and understand our student information system, where students check in for their textbooks and assignments, just help parents understand that so that they can see feedback and grades from the teachers. But certainly it's grown beyond that. And our staff has recognized that we have multiple platforms parents need to understand, have desire to understand. And so we have approached that in expanding our topics, and then also accessing, make sure that our instruction, that it's that we're translating or have translators available when we do those sessions with families. So we have found that to be helpful and really positively received from our families as well. So those are a few things that we've done. The other thing is certainly transportation is a hurdle getting to those sessions. So some of our technology staff, we have a partner in a couple of our apartment complexes that would let our staff come there and have those sessions with parents there on site to remove the transportation of being a hurdle. So we're trying to get better at that, but thankful for the partners we currently have. So those are a few things I would mention.
That's great. Thanks. Julian, I'll turn over to you, and let's hear about some highlights and remaining challenges you're facing at Hickman Mills.
Well, one highlight I will say, and I'm happy to say that at every student currently has either at this point, will have at this year either a brand new device or a device that maybe is a year old. So we have done a full refresh of as of July of this year, we've done a full refresh of all student devices. So they're all up to date, whether that's a MacBook or a Chromebook or an iPad, whatever it looks like, depending on the level of where that student is. We have all fresh new devices. So I was really proud to say that we covered our students really well when it comes to that. Now, we also do have some bilingual software. Now, I have to say this now, I'm more on the technical side than I am in the classroom. So there are things I know about, but as far as the day-to-day classroom things, I may not be able to speak to that as much because I'm not in the classroom every day. But we do have bilingual software that we do support for those who are ESL students or whatever that need that access. And do we also have a whole department that does the community engagement that supports the students from an aspect of whether it be at home or doing site visits or visiting or having a team at an apartment complex for certain things. We do also provide not only devices, we also provide, of course, clothing if they need it, utensils for school supplies, those types of things on a continual basis. And I've been blessed to have vendors that have actually come and also have every year they'll give donations. Some have given gift cards during the holidays to help out the different families who are in need during those times. So do we have vendors and community folks who have definitely stepped up to help out. So I'm very proud of what we're doing so far in that regard. As I spoke to earlier, dealing with the divide at the home is kind of where we're needing to kind of do some more assistance with. And so I appreciate Mary Kay's comment inside of the chat to assist with those types of things. So that's where we are currently.
That's great. You brought up two things I want to touch on further. One, and I know Katie brought this up too, the hoped for federal funding through the Digital Equity Act. One of the biggest things that I know I and thousands of others were counting on through that funding was the preponderance of so-called digital navigators, individuals that could be hired and trained and paid to provide digital navigation support across an array of different areas, certainly for schools, healthcare organizations, and libraries, but well beyond that as well. And I know that the cuts to that DEA funding, we heard Bill Abston earlier say he's still fighting and advocating for that. And I know on the Missouri side, they are as well. But, you know, that's a huge cut to what we were all hoping for in terms of wide availability of so-called digital navigators. And so I know there'll probably be some reactions and comments from those on this call about not only the impact of those cuts, but to Mary Kay Morrow's point, there's still a willingness to reach out and help on the part of a lot of these organizations that do that kind of work and that are part of the coalition. But the other thing you mentioned, Julian, which was interesting to me because, you know, you just spent a year essentially bringing things in-house, right? So you have tighter control over your IT, but you still rely on vendors who provide a lot of different supports. And in this area of platforms, which is mostly software driven, that Katie talked about, I'm still looking to see examples around the country where the vendor side of things will look to create a more integrated set of school-based platforms for all the different things that parents and families need to access. And just curious to know if you're seeing any progress toward that type of, you know, I mean, in nonprofit world, you know, you might have Salesforce, you might have some other platforms that try to provide everything that you need from a data management perspective. But I just haven't seen across the school network software vendor side of things, somebody really working hard to make things easier and more consolidated. Just curious to know what you're seeing about the future prospects or anything like that.
I have to also piggyback on what Katie said about the whole software salad. It's a real deal. So I have been trying to get us to get to the place to where we can eliminate more applications and software, and mainly for our own community, because I feel like we keep adding these software packages, and here's another thing we have to train on. Here's another thing we have to support. Here's another thing we have to make sure it's up and running. Here's another thing, and so now I am at the place now when someone brings to me another vendor, a vendor comes to me, or someone suggests another software, I'm here where I'm asking the question, okay, so you're bringing this to me, what are we eliminating? What software application are we eliminating to do this? Because now we're adding another software that we have to train and support. So, and I'm starting to become a broken record, and I'm okay with that, because I don't want to have a situation to where our teachers, our students, our community gets to the place where we're dealing with too much technology all at the same time, and we're overloading them, and now we have to deal with the already somewhat frustration because of the digital divide. Now I'm dealing with more frustration because now you give me another job, now you give me another duty. So my question has become, so I say all that to say this, my question has become now, hey, if you're bringing me another software solution or application, let me know what we're eliminating to do this. What applications are softwares, 1 or 2 or 3 that we're eliminating to implement a new one. Now, I will say in regards to vendors, I mentioned earlier too, that because of the nature of us bringing in-house the technology, we did go with a more hybrid solution. So we do have of course, our in-house technicians now, but our hybrid solution is embedded to where we can include using the E-rate funds for the hybrid. So I do want to make sure I shared that as well.
Great.
Yeah, I would say, Tom, and across the industry, if I think about what we're doing now with single sign-on to make it streamlined for students or parents, you know, I remember when we were moving that way, when I went from a Missouri district to a Kansas district, seeing some momentum there and getting really pretty excited about it because just efficiency and streamlined access were improving. But if I had to think over the last 5 years about that single sign-on experience, I don't know that the industry has moved, you know, leaps and bounds in 5 years, if you will, to improve that as much as it could be, you know, for students, the staff that manages all that at the teacher level, and then for parents. So seen improvement, just not what you would expect over that time frame.
Great. So I've reached the point where I just have one final question that's meant to be kind of a lead in to more Q&A from the attendees. But the question is this: when you guys, Katie, you and Julian, when you look at who's attending this meeting, you look at organizations like Goodwill, you've got the Public Library, you've got the Hispanic Economic Development Council, you've got Kansas City Digital Drive, you've got Literacy KC. There's a lot of organizations with a lot of reach across the community on both sides of the state line. If you were to summarize your thoughts about the digital access, digital opportunities that we're talking about with respect to what are the ways that this coalition and these attendees might be able to provide some support or help going forward? I mean, how would you address this group from the standpoint of what your staff, your families, and your students are going through, and how their kind of digital opportunities can improve as a result of being part of this supportive community?
I think a reminder to superintendents across the metro on both the Kansas and Missouri side, whether that's a annual, you know, twice a year, just reminder of we're here to support your families and partner with you on your technology goals, because helping, I think, superintendents, one, with just increased awareness of, knowledge of the depth and the variety of service and support that's available, they in turn can make sure that their staff have that, who in turn, you know, remind those who deliver programs and work most closely in that one-on-one, face-to-face daily business with students and families, will remember and know, maybe seek opportunities to partner, or for our kids, when you think about all these real world learning opportunities for our kids to even partner in some way, shape, or form to better understand the world of services and employment someday opportunities with you all. I think that would be, you know, really critical. Just, yeah, a just general marketing, if you will, of this group to superintendents and staff, I think would really be critical. Because if I were, you know, to offer full transparency, there are some resources that prior to me interacting with you all last year, I walked away with some great aha after my first meeting with you all last year. So,
Right.
and I've done this for a long time, so I know others would benefit too.
That's tremendous. Thanks for that, Katie. I think it's a great idea, and I'll definitely work with Wendy in the library and share the word with superintendents throughout the region. So, how about you, Julian? Any kind of messaging that you give to this group with respect to the opportunities that you're facing at Hickman Mills?
Sure. I would say, well, first of all, I appreciate everyone's input, everyone being on here, expressing that what they offer, their offerings here. I will say, yes, superintendents, letting the marketing to the superintendents is good. Um, uh, I will say this: when it comes to superintendents, though, sometimes they do get a bit vendored out. So you want to be careful with that, but also keep in mind with school districts, sometimes the person you're speaking to may not be as, you know, aware or connected to all the other pieces. One person, one area that is always to be pretty well connected, from my experience, has been our communications area. So if you reaching out to our director of communications, or if any other school district has a chief of communications, director of communication, whatever that looks like, because they handle that so often, they will and able to put you in the right place, connect you to the right person, in order to get the offerings you provide to the right people. So because sometimes the superintendents are overloaded, well, they're all overloaded. They're all overloaded. Katie knows they're all overloaded. But from what my experience, the communications area has done a good job of doing that, of making sure everyone has that touch. So
Tremendous. All right. Well, Wendy, before I turn it over to you, I'm just opening it up to the crowd. There have been some really good comments in the chat. Be sure to check John Fitzpatrick put a note in there about that there is a vendor that's got that kind of consolidated software focus. But I'll open it up to questions for the two of you from those in attendance, and otherwise, Wendy, I know we still have community announcements and some other things left on the meeting agenda, but anyone else with the questions they'd like to ask out in the open for Katie or Julian?
Hey, Tom.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Julie. Is that Wendy? Who was that? I can't tell who's speaking.
Oh, sorry, Kenneth. It's Mary Kay. Sorry.
Hey, Mary Kay. Hey, just a quick. Go ahead, Mary Kay. I can wait. Go ahead, Mary Kay. I can wait.
Thanks. One thing caught my ear that you said, Julian, which was that you distributed 20 or 30 hotspots in the Hickman Mills School District. So are families relying more and more on hotspots than they did in the past, or is it about the same as it was? I mean, without the affordability program, what are families doing for the Wi-Fi piece?
So 20 to 30% is what we've issued out. And so, yeah, a lot of them do rely on our hotspots to get connected because of we're able to get a lot of hotspots out there when UCF was available, but when things kind of got dried up, we had available hotspots already that we kind of just were sitting aside, not being used. And I said, well, we're going to go ahead and get these out. So I requested from our librarians, I requested from our principals to let us know if we have students or households that need this type of support, to let us know so we can start issuing those out and keeping track of those. And so I was intentional about reaching out to the schools, to the campuses, so they'll be intentional about reaching out to the students and the families.
All right, is that Kenneth? Did you have a question?
Yes, quick question. Yeah, so Julian and everyone, I really appreciate the comments about this plethora of software. As you know, I've been writing software for 40 years, and I've never seen software write software. But the last 18 months, this thing has exploded. So the premise to my question is, what is the educational entities doing today to perform AI audits to reduce that multiple layer of software? Because again, with the right AI machine learning module, it would learn, right, what type of software and what type of features and capabilities you really, really need, from your back office and your front office. So my question is are the districts doing anything with AI? Because I didn't hear that mentioned at all today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that question. In terms of doing an AI audit, we haven't. I can tell you, as we started to write guidance for our staff around utilization of AI with students, it's kind of doing our own assessment of what's happening at every level. But we've seen this explosion of AI being in our software, and you don't realize it's there yet. And so that's one thing that we're grappling with. But we haven't yet done an internal audit, and I appreciate that recommendation. We actually have a strategic plan goal all around this topic of AI and how it's changing education, how our teachers will utilize it, the opportunities it gives our students to become researchers and actually critical thinkers in a different way because of AI. I honestly, I have to say we're kind of at the beginning of kind of wrestling with this, probably like most everybody on the line, but I'm not sure.
It's a great point, Kenneth, to bring up, and I intentionally avoided it only because it's so. I mean, this time next year, when we have this panel, it's probably going to be the sole topic that we go through, is how we're dealing with it, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. But yeah, it's just now rearing its head, and I didn't want to overwhelm the more general things that we needed as updates by going into the AI side of things. But it's a very, very valid question. Julian, I didn't know if you had any reply to Kenneth's question.
So we in kind of the same place. We have not had an AI audit of anything. So I would appreciate that. It might be a good idea to have an AI do an audit of all our systems to kind of see where we can consolidate a lot of the applications that we use. Now, on the other end of that, we've had AI conversations about how to approach it. And I have, to be honest, I have pushed back on that for now, because especially with school getting ready to be getting geared up for school to start. But come October, my plan is to create some type of task force or committee that is not just inclusive of technology, not just inclusive of academics, but also security and other areas that use AI. Because remember, we're talking about artificial intelligence. It's not just in the classroom. It's not just technology. We have components of AI for our security cameras, components in other areas. And so I want to extend the conversation to have a full group connected, so that when we discuss this, that we have a better idea of who's using what, who wants to use what, so that when we push out a solution, or whatever that solution may be, we have a full grasp on what that looks like, and not just consider one section or whatever. We don't want to commit to doing something in silos. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that holistic approach. Yeah, and to that point, Tom, I'm done. But as Julian just mentioned, there's several layers of AI. And again, I was exposed to neural networks in 1996 when I worked at Sprint's think tank lab. And let me just say this: I think Tom would be an excellent AI policy manager, because we've got to inject. Okay, I won't go long, Tom. I need 1 minute, because you all need to know this, because something is happening I've never seen before. Look here, there are several large language modules. That is the data set of your AI, right? There's certain people that have proprietary LLMs, and everybody is using ChatGTP. ChatGTP is proprietary, so we don't know what's in that. We don't. So I'm just suggesting that some sort of oversight, Tom, or some kind of policy group. And I would love to be a part of it, Tom. You know how we work together. I like to be a part of it. But that's what's happening. We need to know what's inside of these LLMs, or create our own, Julian, because you're talking about redlining, right? Back in the day, we were redlined based on just zip codes. I can redline based on what you tag, upload, follow, post. I'm not saying danger, danger, danger. I'm just saying there is a good and bad side to AI. I'm done. I'm sorry, Tom. Sorry.
Great comment. Sorry. And there is a lot of work going on across the country, and the NDIA, the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, has led a lot of webinars and a lot of topics. I know even here locally, KC Digital Drive has done a couple of activities and events helping people learn more about AI. I know Carol Myers even teaches a class over at the Lamb campus, but we're just so much at the front end, and the policy side of things is going to be really kicking off here in the next year or so. But listen, for time purposes, I want to make sure to, first of all, thank you, Julian and Katie, for joining us. I want to hand back over to Wendy for community announcements and some other things, but just know that obviously it's a very rich topic, and we're so grateful that you guys gave us some of your time and insights. We'll be diving into the healthcare side of things in September, but good luck with the school year, and thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
Thank
All
you
right,
very
Wendy?
much. Yeah, thank you, Tom and Katie and Julian. Great discussion. There was one more comment or question in the chat. Ina was asking if either Katie or Julian could speak to the 21st century funding that will be cut, or even you, Tom. And if that'll be affecting.
I'm not exactly sure what that's referring to, but there's been just so much uncertainty about anything funding related from a government perspective that but I haven't heard specifically about something referred to as 21st century.
Yeah, I can't speak to it from my district at this point. I'm sorry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Same.
No problem. Thank you. Just wanted
Okay.
to draw attention to our chat here. And then, Denise also asked if she's got some elderly residents with issues operating computers and asked about any sort of assistance. It looks like Leah jumped in and obviously said, send them her way over to the LAMP campus. And then, of course, the library offers one-on-one appointments by request. And I know Megan is working on building out some partnerships, and, she's at capacity, I think, doing the work herself. But one of the announcements that I wanted to share on behalf of the library is that we were granted an extension of our AmeriCorps project, where we are able to employ some part-time AmeriCorps volunteers. We call them Digital Corps members. And those are the individuals that provide direct service at a lot of our branch locations. And we're going to have an increase in the number of individuals that we're able to bring on. And so that might even, Denise, offer a little bit of, as we figure that out in the coming weeks, where we'll be assigning those members, that might increase our capacity as well to come down and offer classes and one-on-one appointments. But I did want to bring your attention just as coalition to that as well, because we'll be posting those positions and begin recruiting in a few weeks. And so look for an announcement and message for that opportunity. And then it looks like we have several other announcements. Leslie shared an event coming up just on Monday, Building the Future of Tech in Kansas City. If anybody wants to, Leslie, if you want to jump in and talk about that at all, feel free, please.
Yeah, we got a direct invitation from Judeanne Heat to attend, but also she put it out on the NDIA listserv today. So just register. It looks like space is limited. So if you're interested in going, I would suggest hopping right on that.
And I saw something, Wendy, from Marisa
Yep.
Martinez from the Federal Reserve Bank. Marisa, are you on the call? Do you want to talk a little bit about DARF?
Yeah, thank you. So I dropped a link in the chat. I think I shared some information about this last time, but wanted to also just kind of remind you that we have registration going up until, I think, September 4th. I can't remember off the top of my head. If you click on the link, you'll now see basically the full agenda, along with some descriptions of what we're providing. The first day, it does have more of a workshop application, and it's a separate registration. So if you are more like boots on the ground, you might find value in going and doing the workshops and learning a little bit about research, data collection from a community standpoint. So that would be more qualitative and quantitative methods. And then the other 2 days of the forum are focused on things that might be more applicable for policy, like future proofing programs. Workforce is tied into there since that came up today. And we actually have a session or two about AI as it relates to digital inclusion or digital access. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks so much.
I'd like to also make an announcement that starting, you'll see August the 14th, I will be at the Plaza Library for 3 consecutive days, giving a full overview of Carrie. Carrie is the AI agent that I built it for Essential Families, but she's maxed it out. So I've kind of reshaped it a little bit. So it's going to be addressing a lot of the issues that I'm seeing relative to, business optimization, school optimization. So you'll get more information about that. But again, I'll be at the Plaza Library starting August the 13th from 1:30 to 3:30. Full demo of what Carrie can do and what we can do to help education.
That's great. You know what, I want to go back to a comment from Denise Hart, and not just because I know we weren't able to satisfactorily answer your question in a satisfactory way, Denise, but I do want to use your question as an example of the needs throughout the community. Here's a neighborhood association down on Bannister in between Warnell and 71 Highway, and there are a lot of older adults that need help learning computer skills. And while Megan McNaughton and Tech Access from the library have been helpful with places like Vineyard Neighborhood Association, and they've been down to help, it is, like Wendy said, it's just one person. I think, Jewish Family Services used to do a lot of digital navigation. That's cut back. There are other organizations that had available digital navigator support type of things, but it's a persistent need. It's a growing need. So I just wanted to get the word out among you all. If you know anyone that is capable in that region, we're talking about going towards southern part of Kansas City. We've got to find a way to mobilize the resources we have to offer some additional support. I know it's hard, Denise, but we got to keep working together and find ways to get help for those older adults and students and families as well that just need on the ground mentoring and tutoring on digital skills.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, Tom. It hurts us in our souls here at the library when we are not, necessarily able to, on the spot help people every single time. It's just so it is difficult. Like I said, we are excited with the new Digital Core grant to hopefully increase some of our capacity to serve. But in the meantime, I really do think it brings attention to the importance of this group and the coalition overall and being able to fill those gaps as needed. So thank you very much for saying that. Let's see. It looks like there are some registration links. Again, we will include all of this. If you missed something, we'll include all of this in our follow-up newsletter that will come out next week. I think there was the third Friday meeting hosted by KC Digital Drive and their team over there. They're going to be talking about devices. So definitely tune in on August 15th if you're interested. And reach out to Leslie or Leah, I think, if you need the connection information for those meetings. And otherwise, I think we've gotten through everything in the chat. Does anyone else have any announcements or events coming up or, anything else you'd like to share before we end our meeting today?
Yeah, Vineyard is having a national night out against crime on the 5th of this month at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Ike, would you mind repeating that? It was just a little hard for me to understand what you said.
I said Vineyard is having a national night out against crime Tuesday, August the 5th at 6 p.m., 6 to 8 p.m.
Nice.
Yep.
National Night Out about crime. Yep.
Yeah. And Ike, if you have any sort of flyer or, links or website that we can share, I know that's coming up pretty quickly. We may or may not get the newsletter out by the time it happens, but we could sure help promote it on social media and, other channels. So if you have anything like that to send my way, you can put it in the chat or just email it to me directly. I'd love to help you get the word out.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Last call. We're going to be ending a few minutes early. You'll get a nice a little bit of time back on this beautiful Friday. Go out and enjoy this weather if you have a chance.
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, have a great weekend, and it's great to see everyone. And we'll see you next month on August 7th. We'll be talking about healthy aging. So thanks a lot,
September.
everyone.
Great
Oh,
job.
that's definitely
Great
what
job.
I meant. Yeah.
September.
Getting a little
Great job.
ambitious. Definitely meant September. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Wendy.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Wendy. Great job. Great job.
Thanks, everyone.